Kidney stones could be very painful and sometimes downright dangerous. They could be bad for the kidneys, of course. So let's discuss kidney stones. Let's look at an overview. Kidney stones are small clumps of minerals in the urinary tract. The pain from these small stones can feel like a rock when you're passing them. Now, stones can range in size from a grain of salt to the big ones that could be like a niblet of corn. Of course, the most common symptom is severe pain. Now, both men and women can develop kidney stones, but they're more common in men. Genes, your diet, dehydration, certain illnesses, some drugs, weight loss surgery, previously having a kidney stone all impact your risk. And that's important to note that. Previously having a kidney stone means you're at heightened risk of having another kidney stone. That's how the body works. Most stones will pass on their own, but sometimes you need a medical procedure if the stone's causing a lot of symptoms, if it's dangerous, if it's damaging the kidneys, or if it's too big. There are some simple steps that can cut your risk of developing a kidney stone in half. For some people, it's not so easy. So welcome to our painful kidney stone episode. Hi, my name is Jerry Hickey. I'm a licensed pharmacist who also has studied nutrition. I'm over here at Invite Health. I'm also the scientific director, and I'd like to talk to you today about the types of kidney stones and the healthy steps you can take to help prevent kidney stones. You never want the irritation to your urinary tract, or in some rarer cases, the permanent kidney damage, nor the awful pain caused by a kidney stone. So hopefully with this information, we can help you avoid this in the first place. However, we will discuss uric acid in another episode, because uric acid, which is a source of kidney stones, also causes gout, and gout is extremely dangerous for your heart. Be sure to subscribe to the Invite Health podcast today and leave us a review. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Invite Health. All of the information on today's episode will be linked on the episode description, and you can visit www.invitehealth.com/podcast. First, let's talk about how a doctor would diagnose a kidney stone. You go in there, you have pain, there's blood in the urine. First, they may do a blood test. They might look for things like excess calcium in the blood, which could be caused by excessive intake of vitamin D. That's right, you don't want your vitamin D levels too high in your blood because they make you retain calcium. Or it could be due to your parathyroid gland, which regulates calcium in the blood. Urine testing, they do a 24-hour urine collection. They want to see if there's too many stone-forming minerals in the blood or not enough of those stone-preventing substances like citrate. They could do imaging like an x-ray, but that can miss small kidney stones. So a lot of doctors want to do CT scans because this can show up even small kidney stones. By the way, once you pass a kidney stone, the doctor might want you to catch it in a strainer. Why? You bring it to the lab analyzes it, and then you know what to avoid in the future, or what you should be doing to avoid future kidney stones. Now, how do you treat a kidney stone? Well, sometimes they use medications like thiazide diuretics. Thiazide diuretics are drugs such as hydrochlorothiazide or chlorthalidone. These drugs are commonly used for swollen legs. These drugs are commonly used to treat high blood pressure or help with heart failure. The problem is they can lead to dehydration, and that's no good because we'll discuss dehydration in a minute and the risk of kidney stones. Also, they use phosphorus salts. Well, that's not great because phosphorus can cause pseudogout, calcium phosphate kidney stones, which is probably the second most common kidney stone. And sometimes they use citrate salts. If they use potassium citrate, I'm totally on board with that. If they use sodium citrate, as you see, that's not a good idea. Now, how do you help small stones with like very little symptoms, minimal symptoms? Drink a lot of water. It may flush the gravel out of your system. Pain relievers. Sometimes they'll give you ibuprofen or acetaminophen or naproxen. Sometimes they give you an alpha blocker drug, normally used to treat high blood pressure, or they might give you a thiazide diuretic. But what about large stones? Well, sometimes they can actually use shock waves. They can use sound waves to break up kidney stones, certain kind of kidney stones in certain parts of the urinary tract. Surgery to remove very large stones. That sounds scary. Percutaneous nephrolithotomy. They surgically remove a kidney stone. They use a small telescope and instruments, and they put this through a little incision in your back near your urinary tract. And then for smaller stones, they go right up your urethra. Well, yeesh, I don't know. I'd rather not have one to begin with. Now let's talk about causation, really important. And then natural things that can help prevent the kidney stone in the first place. That's really cool because it really works. Most kidney stones form when the urine becomes too concentrated. So dehydration. That's why I'm not big on all these diuretics they're using. This allows the minerals like calcium to crystallize and clump together. Now, the most common stone is a calcium oxalate stone, but it's not really from calcium, and it's not really from oxalate. So there's a lot of good foods with oxalate in it, like tea, like cocoa, like broccoli and spinach. But diet can play a big role in developing the stone. It depends on the pH of the diet. See, pH is a range of acid and base. So acid is 0 to almost 7. 7 is neutral, and above 7 to 14 is alkaline. Here's a problem. A very acidic diet truly increases your risk of developing a kidney stone. And this is for a particular reason that's very important, physiologically. Has to do with survival, literally. Your blood has to be a certain pH, a certain range that's slightly alkaline. And if the blood goes out of that range, it's very dangerous. So if your blood becomes slightly acidic, you go into a coma, and most of these people don't make it out of the ambulance. It's called lactic acidosis or ketoacidosis. So your blood has to be very slightly alkaline, a very narrow range. So if you're eating an acidy diet, what's an acidy diet? It's lacking fresh fruits, it's lacking fresh vegetables, it's high in meat, dairy, fats, sugar. Salt makes it worse, by the way. We'll discuss that in a minute. So it's high in sugar and meat and alcohol. You could throw alcohol in there. If you're eating a high acid load, a very acidy diet, typical American diet, having a cheeseburger with Swiss cheese or cheddar cheese on it in a roll, that's all acid. French fries, that's acidic. Ketchup, well, there's a lot of salt in ketchup. That's a problem too. When you eat a lot of acidy foods, the body has to take steps to prevent the blood from becoming acidic. Otherwise, you go into that coma and your organs shut down, and that's the end of you. So how does the body prevent the blood from becoming acidic? It takes minerals out of your bones. It literally takes the minerals out of your bones. And this can alkalinize the blood. The problem is the minerals have nowhere to go eventually except into the urinary tract. Now here's the other problem. Because you're eating so much acid, you're having such an acid-based diet, your urine, which is normally a little bit acid, is now more acidic. And when your urine is acid, it converts minerals into sediment. It creates crystals. So by having an acidic diet, you're creating a situation where you have bone loss, and on top of that bone loss, there's minerals going into a more acidic urine, which converts them into crystals, and they could clump together, especially if you have some oxalate in there. They clump together and create a kidney stone. So not drinking enough water is a definite risk for a kidney stone. It increases your risk of a kidney stone by 50%, and conversely, drinking a lot of water lowers your risk dramatically. And also having too much acid, and that's especially important for older people. Older people are already in a state called sarcopenia. They're losing muscle. Excess acid in the blood makes them lose bone at a more rapid pace, and makes them lose muscle at a more rapid pace, and also leads to kidney stones. So older people especially have to pay attention to having alkaline foods, following an alkaline diet. They need their vegetables. They need their fresh fruits. Before we go any further, let's go to a quick break. Jerry Hickey and Vite Health. We're talking about kidney stones, what they are and how to prevent them. We'll be right back.
This podcast is brought to you by InviteHealth.com. For over 20 years, Invite Health has provided premium quality supplements and expert advice you can trust. Now, first-time customers can enjoy an exclusive offer. Visit invitehealth.com/podcast or click the link in this episode description. That's invitehealth.com/podcast for your exclusive offer on Invite Health products. Invite Health offers the resources you need to make important decisions about your health. Chat live with degreed healthcare professionals, get product information, and find retail locations near you at invitehealth.com. You can also learn about our new genetic testing program and our exclusive Invite Fitness Wellness program. Follow Invite Health on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and be sure to subscribe to our podcast today. Now back to our episode.
Okay, welcome back to the broadcast. Jerry Hickey for Invite Health. We're discussing kidney stones. I already discussed 2-acid, a diet, how this contributes to kidney stone formation. I already discussed dehydration, how this contributes to formation of kidney stones. Let me just add something about dehydration. Older people lack a thirst reflex. In other words, if you put a 25-year-old on a treadmill and a 65-year-old on a treadmill, and they did the same amount of exercise and they did the same amount of sweating, the 25-year-old would be a lot thirstier than the 65-year-old. So 65 people who are older, they have to pay attention to their fluid intake. They have to pay attention to their fluid intake, just like they have to really focus on getting alkalinizing foods in their diet to prevent muscle wasting, loss of bone, and kidney stones. I mentioned before that oxalate and dehydration are strongly connected to kidney stones. And it's not really the oxalate nor the calcium it contributes to that's the causation of the kidney stones. It's really more of a gene, a common genetic variation in a gene called claudin-14. This is linked to about a 65% increased risk of getting a kidney stone. So the claudin-14 gene is typically not active in your kidneys. But when you're dehydrated, or if you use a lot of salt, it becomes activated. So what's the problem with that? When claudin-14 is not active, the kidney's filtering system works like it's supposed to. So essential minerals in the blood, like calcium and magnesium, when they pass through the kidneys, because everything eventually gets filtered through the kidneys, they're reabsorbed back into the bloodstream where they're transported to wherever they're needed and they carry out the basic functions of life. But when you eat a diet very high in salt, or you don't drink enough water, you actually activate this gene in your kidneys. And this prevents calcium from being reabsorbed from your kidneys. The calcium stays in the urine. And this concentrates, and it leads to a stone. So this is the connection between dehydration, and this is the connection between excessive salt intake. There is a calcium pyrophosphate kidney stone, which is not unheard of. That's due to a high amount of phosphorus in the body, and also sometimes it depends on your genes. A simple way to prevent that is, once again, eat your vegetables and your fruit, but lay off the colas. Colas are loaded with phosphate, and cut way back on red meat. Red meat is loaded with phosphate. And certainly get those cold cuts, those luncheon meats like salami and bacon and stuff out of your diet. That'll make a difference. Now, so one, drink a lot of water. Cut back on colas and red meat. Get enough of the alkalinizing foods in your diet, fruits and vegetables. Cut back on salt. Very important. Now, besides salt activating a gene that leads to kidney stones, too much salt can squeeze your blood vessels and cause fluid retention and lead to high blood pressure. That's one of the reasons why they use diuretics to help treat high blood pressure. It gets rid of the excess fluid and gets rid of the excess salt. But, better off not taking in excess salt in the first place. There was an interesting study from London about 10 years ago. In London, people eat a ton of salt. They were putting salt on cheese. They were putting salt on pizza. They were putting salt on bacon. I can't imagine that at all. When they cut back on salt a little bit, and it was still more than Americans typically take in, the incidence of stroke and heart attack dropped dramatically. It was unbelievably significant in the study. So besides salt raising your blood pressure and leading to a stroke or heart attack, besides salt triggering the formation of a kidney stone, salt also poisons your healthy good bacteria. You know, the reason why you're taking a probiotic or eating fermented foods in the first place is to help with your good bacteria. Excess salt kills your good bacteria. When you kill the good bacteria, your blood sugar starts to go up. So excess salt, besides raising your blood pressure, besides leading to kidney stones, it also can increase your risk of developing diabetes. So salt, cut back on the salt. So one way to prevent kidney stones, cut back on salt. Second way, once again, drink more water. This is especially important for older people. Now let me just say something else about older people with their thirst reflex. Older people's older people's kidneys could be awash in fluid, but they have trouble concentrating toxins. So even when they're hydrated, they're getting rid of toxins less efficiently than younger people. So it really is important for older people to focus on enough water. Not only does it cut back on kidney stone formation, but it helps detoxify their body dramatically. Now 3, besides cutting back on sodium, besides taking in more water, consume more potassium and magnesium. These are the things that alkalinize your diet. Sufficient potassium intake in your diet cuts your risk of a kidney stone by about 50% in both men and women. Here's the problem. Only about 2% of Americans get enough potassium from their diet, and most of these people are men. Now, also magnesium. Only about 30% of all Americans consume enough magnesium. This is important because magnesium helps with kidney stones in 2 ways. One, it alkalinizes the blood and the urine a little bit. 2, it's the glue that captures calcium and holds it into your bones. So when you're lacking magnesium, not only are you more inclined to develop acidity, which contributes to kidney stones, but you're losing calcium, and the calcium has nowhere to go but migrate into your urinary tract. So this bone loss connected to lacking magnesium leads to kidney stones. Now, we developed alkalizer powder to help you compensate for this. It has to be mixed in water, so that's a help to begin with. But it supplies plenty of potassium and magnesium and citrate. As I mentioned before, doctors actually prescribe potassium citrate to treat kidney stones and prevent future kidney stones. So the alkalizer has the potassium, the magnesium, and the citrate. These minerals help keep your blood alkaline, so minerals do not have to be borrowed from your bone to maintain alkalinity in the bloodstream. This helps prevent the excessive loss of calcium from your bones that would otherwise wind up in your urine. Also, of course, this supports bone health. So there's plenty of both potassium and magnesium as well as citrate in the alkalizer powder. As I mentioned before, sometimes doctors also prescribe sodium citrate. Not a good idea because sodium and chloride, salt, are connected to kidney stones. A 4th way to help again, cut back on phosphate. The phosphate leads to calcium pyrophosphate called pseudo-gout kidney stones. So that's cans of colas. All the colas are loaded with phosphoric acid. That cutting back on meat cuts back on the phosphate. Green tea. Drink green tea, which sounds crazy, right? Because green tea contains oxalate. Green tea prevents kidney stones. Let me read you a couple of studies. Here's the International Journal of Urology, February 2019. It's the Vanderbilt University Medical Center in Nashville, their cancer center, and also their Vanderbilt O'Brien Center for Kidney Disease, and their Department of Urologic Surgery. I want to read you the actual study, a little bit of the study. These are the researchers from Vanderbilt University. We examined self-reported kidney stone in the Shanghai Men's Health Study, that's over 58,000 men, and the Shanghai Women's Health Study, that's over 69,000 women. They're all older, by the way. The youngest ones are 40. And they're looking specifically for kidney stones and tea intake. So they found that there is a tea that prevents kidney stones. Green tea. Green tea cut the risk of kidney stones in men by 22% and cut the risk of a kidney stone in a woman by 16%. Now, there was a trend. There was a dose response there that you would expect. The more green tea the men had, the lower their risk of kidney stones. Having more green tea, like 2 or 3 cups a day, cut their risk of a kidney stone by 33%. Now, I'll tell you a couple of things about that before we go any further. Green tea, physiologically, what it does, it prevents minerals in the urine from developing into sediment, from developing into crystals. It prevents them from forming sharp edges. If they don't form the sharp edges, they can't clump together into a crystal. So that's what seems to be going on. Add lemon to the green tea. Now you're going to say, wait, Jerry was saying stay away from the acidity. You want to be alkaline. Well, lemon is loaded with citric acid. So you would think, oh, that's going to make me more acid. No. The citric acid goes into the energy cycle of the body that makes you alkaline. So have green tea 2 or 3 times a day to prevent kidney stones. Squeeze some lemon into it. In fact, you might want to listen to one of our other podcasts where I connect green tea to longevity and staying strong as you grow older and improving the effects of exercise, etc. But here's another study on green tea and kidney stones. Because what about women? The other study showed that the green tea was stronger in men. 33% lower risk of developing a kidney stone with higher green tea intake. So here's the journal Nutrients, and it's January 2019, and it's the Sorbonne. The Sorbonne is this huge research center in France. This happens to be in Paris. It has about 5,000 employees, all in different divisions. So they're looking here at kidney health. And they said tea has significant amounts of oxalate. So is that a problem in people who develop kidney stones? So they found no, it's not a problem if it's green tea. So these are people that have high levels of, they're prone to calcium oxalate kidney stones. They're prone to calcium oxalate kidney stones. And they found if they gave them green tea, it really, in men, it had almost no effect. But in women, so in the last study, green tea, if they had 3 cups a day, and men cut the risk of a kidney stone by 1/3. So this is women. And the women prone to kidney stones, 42% of the women developed a kidney stone unless they drank green tea. If they drank green tea, 0, none of them developed a kidney stone. So the women prone to kidney stones, 42% of them developed kidney stones, but if they drank green tea, 0% developed kidney stones. That's rather amazing. So let's just review. I guess we should review. You want to have enough potassium and magnesium in your diet. That's fresh fruits and vegetables, green leafy vegetables, some fish, mushrooms, things like that. You want to cut back on the processed meat, the red meat. You want to cut back on colas. You want to cut back on the sugar. All those things contribute to kidney stone formation. You want to stay hydrated, and you want to cut back on salt. Being dehydrated or having too much salt activates a gene that leads to kidney stones. You want to drink green tea. Squeeze some lemon in it. I have green tea every day. I mean, I actually do green tea because I want to cut my risk of prostate cancer. There's many studies showing that green tea cuts the risk of prostate cancer. And in women, a little bit, it cuts the risk of breast cancer. And in most people, it cuts the risk of developing polyps, which is the precursor to colon cancer. So green tea is good anyway. Thanks for tuning in to the Invite Health Podcast. You can find all of our episodes for free wherever you listen to podcasts or by visiting invitehealth.com/podcast. Make sure you subscribe and please leave us a review. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Invite Health Today. We'll see you next time on another episode of the Invite Health Podcast. Thank you so much for listening.